And again, Gaza in its entirety is a densely populated area where civilians reside. So their use in Gaza was completely illegal. So dime is another thing that, another weapon, and there's been many. Amnesty International actually has a that talks about most of the weapons used in Gaza. Metal explosives, and basically dime, it has not been unofficially on many occasions used. And an interesting thing is a product of one of the UCs. UC Berkeley is actually one of the main creators, dime comes from a lot of these UC systems. The UC system actually is, they have a lot of, they do a lot of these laboratories and they create a lot of these weapons. So UC Berkeley actually was one of the strong, they did help create dime. And dime is basically, it's like, it was designed as a weapon to prevent damage. So that rather than exploding in the air before it hits you, it explodes inside your body. And so once it goes inside your body, it explodes. It basically causes amputation-like injuries. So like your entire arm is missing, or half your body is missing. And when I would go into hospitals, many of these doctors don't. I mean, they have no technology there. It's beyond third world in Gaza. But many of them had cell phones, and they had taken pictures of some of the people that had come through. And there was a picture of a little girl, and half her body was completely missing. She was completely charred, and half her body was missing. And it's very strongly believed that this girl was hit by a dime missile. And so the 5 soldiers, they just start shooting at them wildly. And Mohammed Shadab, the father, actually was shot in the arms. He crashed into the wall. After he crashed into the wall, the soldiers basically told him, "Get out of the car, get out of the car." And so Mohammed told his oldest son, Qasab, who's this, he's on the left-hand side, basically told his oldest son, Qasab, who's 28, to go out, take care, be careful. So he got out. As soon as he got out, 7 bullets across his chest. And he fell down, staggered, fell down, face down. The second son, so they're yelling, "Get out, get out." Mohammed is stuck. He cannot get out of the car. He's stuck, and he's been shot. So he tells Ibrahim, his second son, who's 18, "Be careful, go out, see what happened to your brother." So Ibrahim tries to get out. Before he can get down, he's shot in the leg below the knee. And basically, Ibrahim is basically left to bleed. I mean, this is a shot. This is actually, I mean, a bullet wound is a problem, but it should not be fatal, right? A bullet wound below the knee. He was basically forced to stay outside in January. He was not provided any medical aid by the soldiers, and under international law, even if you're a combat, even if he came out flying with, and I'm just talking about, what international law says, even if he came out with a machine gun and he was firing at the Israeli soldiers, as long as he's no longer engaged in combat, he's a wounded person and he's considered a protected person and he needs to be treated. Ibrahim was not a soldier. He was not a combat. He was a normal civilian who came out. He had no weapons on him. And the soldiers not only denied him medical access, not only did they deny him or prevent him from having medical access, they prevented anybody from coming to take him. And the hospital was 1 kilometer away from where he stood. So even if Muhammad and Ibrahim were allowed to walk that 1 kilometer, Ibrahim would have not died. But he basically was left to bleed for about 12 hours before he bled to death. And the ambulance was not allowed to come for 20-some hours. And I'm going to actually let you guys hear the story. And the reason I really feel like, I think this was the first story, when I went there, it was really difficult to be there and just to hear the stories and just to see it firsthand. But I think listening to Mohammed Shadab talk about this was probably the first time that it actually hit me, that this was actually reality, and this was not something, it was not, kind of my professionalism fell through, and I was like, became a very human experience for me. Because actually when I was in the US, when this onslaught was happening, Muhammad's other son, who goes to Middlebury, he was on the radio when Ibrahim was bleeding to death. And he was saying on the radio, "My brother is bleeding to death. Can somebody help us? Can somebody contact the Israeli Defense Force? Can somebody get through to them?" And I remember I was driving to work when I heard this on the radio. And it really shook me up. And then when I went to Gaza, I met Mohammed Shadab, and it was like putting two and two together. And when I heard him talk about how he watched his 2 sons die before his eyes, the first murdered and the second bled to death, I think it was probably one of the most painful experiences I've ever experienced in my life. And it was even more painful because Muhammad who doesn't, English is not his first language, it's not his native language, he never really studied English formally. One thing that had happened when we were there, I speak Arabic fluently, so I would translate for my partner who did not speak Arabic at all. And he said, one thing he told me is like, I don't want you to translate for me, I want to speak Arabic because I want you to show this video to people in America, and I want you to actually have them, I want to be humanized for the first time. I don't want to be seen as this enemy, as this terrorist, as this monster. And so, I'll let you guys hear him speak for himself.
I was in this square here, 30 to 40 meters far from the river. Started to, I saw soldiers stand by the gate, ground floor gate, main gate of the building, shouting, get out, all get out from the page. So I told my elder son, this is Gazan, this son, as soon as he gets down from the car, and he was sitting near me in the front seat, as soon as he gets down from the he received about 7 bullet wounds. He ran ahead about 7 steps until he landed face to the air. One young man has been gone forever. We tell all that. Then Ibrahim, take care, your brother, yes, again. Take care as you get down from the car, take a safe position. Soon, below the car. But as Ibrahim is shorter than the door of the jeep, see the jeep, Land Rover jeep is high, maybe 2 meters or so. They couldn't see his face. As he gets down from the car, they shoot him soon in his leg, below the knee. Left leg, below the knee. Then he shouted, Dad, I have been shooted. About it, I am injured.
Who shot him?
The soldier, the same soldier at the gate. Dad, I am injured. I am injured. Please call the rescue, call the 101. 101 means al-Is'af in our language. This is the number of the ambulance. Call my son, please, I am still bleeding and over the car and I can't get down from the driver's door, the left door, it is hit by the wall. I have to try to get down from another door, the left or the right door. I jumped in between the two ships and I could get down and soon on ground, face to ground and just the ground until I reached Ibrahim, who was about 2 meters further from him. Oh. Then as Ibrahim gets his mobile and tried to call for the rescue people, 101, we are injured, we are in a certain location, not far from the European hospital, about 1 kilometer only. Please, please, please help, assist, we need an urgent assistance. We are bleeding. So, the soldier, he shouted once again, don't use your mobile patch. Patch means patch, alpha and English patch. أبشع كلمة ممكن أن تقال. يقول لا تستخدم التليفون لأي شيء. Every 10 minutes, Ibrahim was asking me to phone or call the rescue, the ambulance, for help or assistance. I did it. I knew I was doing. I was phoning. Children, I told the people, I phoned them maybe more than 20 times. What did you do for me? Please tell me kindly Shall I stop calling all